Incredible transformation, Black CEO exposed to discrimination. 5 minutes later, chaos revealed. Marcus stepped into the sleek, glass-paneled office for the first time, a blend of pride and anxiety swirling within him. Just months ago, he was navigating the gritty streets of Detroit, but today, he was the CEO of a groundbreaking software company. The weight of his father's lessons echoed in his mind. Hard work and integrity would light his path. He took a deep breath, the distant scent of fried chicken and collard greens from home still lingering in his heart. As the doors swung closed behind him, that world fell away, replaced by the buzz of corporate ambition and ambition. Yet, just moments into his first day, he received an ominous email, an anonymous letter exposing a vile scheme against him, and it struck his chest like a punch. Discrimination was alive, lurking in corners of the boardroom. It was not just a rumor, it was an orchestrated attack by a rival CEO, Jonathan, who was driven by envy and twisted beliefs. Marcus's stomach twisted. He could almost feel the weight of his family's hopes pressing down on him. Home offered refuge. "Did you have a good day?" Tara asked, her smile radiant, yet her eyes were clouded with concern. Their kids giggled in the background, but the air was thick with unspoken fears. "It's a lot, isn't it?" She probed, tension rising like the heat from the frying pan. Marcus couldn't hide the worry etched on his face. What if they were right? What if he was risking everything for a title that could vanish in an instant? As Tara's hands kneaded dough for biscuits, they discussed challenges ahead. He could feel the tug-of-war in his heart, torn between ambition and protection. He needed to be strong for them, but inside, doubts gnawed at him. Just then, their oldest, a bright-eyed boy, ran to him. "Daddy, are you gonna be okay?" The sincerity in his child's voice pulled at Marcus's heart like no other. "Of course, buddy," he said, but could he be? Back at the office, chaos erupted as whispers of the scandal churned, invading the confidence built through years of hard work. Meetings turned chaotic, and once loyal employees now exchanged glances full of doubt. The computer screens flickered with messages, insidious lies taking form. Marcus stood at the center of the storm, heart racing, trapped in a whirlwind of uncertainty. Just as he absorbed the gravity of it all, another message popped up: his mentor from back home, a rock of support in trying times. "We've got your back, always." That was a lifeline. Marcus quickly remembered his roots, the community that raised him. They had endured adversity and fought through together. He wasn't alone. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. He reached out, gathering old friends, mentors, anyone willing to support him against the tide of discrimination. Their collective strength electrified him. It became clear this wasn't just about preserving his reputation but fighting for dignity itself. The moment hung heavy in the air, and Marcus could feel it in his bones. This was just the beginning of a bigger fight, one that might shift the corporate landscape forever. How far would he go to defend not just his career, but the legacy of his father? The unfolding chaos echoed the question, leaving the answer teetering on the edge of uncertainty. The next morning felt different. Marcus awoke with a sense of determination stirring deep within him. The sun poured into their bedroom, casting golden patches on the floor. He watched Tara still sleeping, her face serene, and his heart ached with a fierce love. Today was about more than just him, it was about all of them. After breakfast, he logged into his computer, ready to face the storm head-on. A sense of resolve washed over him as he typed out an email to his board. He outlined his vision for the company and his commitment to diversity and inclusion. Twilight turned into dawn within the depths of his heart, igniting a fire that propelled him forward. After hitting send, he felt lighter, like the world was no longer pressing down on him. In the meeting room later that morning, the atmosphere was electric but charged with uncertainty. Eyes darted nervously around the table, uncertain of which way the winds would blow. He glanced at each member of the board, recalling their quirks and strengths. Every smile shared with them now felt costly, as if they danced under the weight of expectations. "We have some serious issues swirling around the office," Marcus began, slightly trembling as the words escaped. The room was silent. "I've received an anonymous email detailing a nasty plot. I want you to know that I've always stood for what is right, and I will fight tooth and nail to protect this company." Whispers erupted. Questions flew. Marcus could feel the heat rising to his cheeks as insecurities bubbled beneath the surface. "We stand behind you," one of his allies finally spoke. Encouragement poured forth. It felt fragile but genuine, and Marcus held onto it like a lifebuoy in a turbulent sea. Just as momentum began to build, Jonathan burst into the meeting unannounced, the smugness on his face infuriating. "Are you trying to turn this into a pity party, Marcus?" Jonathan laughed, looking down at him as if he were a misfit. The hostility was palpable, each word a jab meant to pierce. "Enough," Marcus said, his voice rising with unexpected strength. He could feel the energy shift, like the sound of a train gaining speed. "You underestimate me. This isn't about you or your insecurities. This is about creating a workplace where everyone thrives." The room grew quiet, tension tensed thick around them, but he felt emboldened. After the meeting, he sat alone, biting down on the pencil resting in front of him. The fight was only beginning, but now he had allies after all. As he reflected on their support that morning, something clicked, an idea sparked. Maybe he could host a town hall, inviting employees to share their thoughts, their fears. It would be a chance to clear the air, build community, and push back against the discrimination that threatened to choke the life out of the company. The thought made him smile, igniting hope where anxiety had flourished. Tara's face appeared in his mind, her unyielding belief in him driving his actions. That evening, he rushed home, ready to share his vision with his family. He was mid-sentence about the town hall when their youngest, Maya, interrupted him. "Daddy, can I come too?" she chirped. His heart swelled. "Of course you can, honey." Yet as he continued to explain, one nagging question lingered in the back of his mind: could a town hall truly be a step toward healing, or would it only open the floodgates of fear and division? As he watched the smiles on his children's faces, the weight of that unknown loomed large, intertwining with the thread of hope. Tomorrow, he would need to step onto that stage, speaking not just for himself but for his community. But would they unite in strength, or would they fracture under the pressure? And in that moment of uncertainty, he felt the gravity of the journey ahead settle deep into his bones, leaving him to ponder what awaited when the lights dimmed and the voices roared. The next day arrived with a sense of urgency. Marcus could hardly sit still as he prepared for the town hall. He went through his notes over and over, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and dread. Today was the day he would invite everyone into the conversation, a chance to break the silence that had stifled their voices for too long. As he entered the office, the atmosphere buzzed with an unusual energy. Employees milled about, some exchanging nervous glances, others whispering amongst themselves. Would this meeting bring hope or unleash more division? He cast a quick glance at Tara, who had come to support him. She stood by the side, her reassuring smile grounding him amidst the rising tension. "Are you ready?" she asked softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I am," Marcus replied, though his stomach churned with uncertainty. "But am I going to be able to make a difference?" "You already have," she promised. "Just speak from your heart." As he stepped onto the makeshift stage, he surveyed the crowd. Familiar faces looked back, some filled with skepticism, some hopeful. The cacophony of murmurs gradually faded, replaced by silence. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle in. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, his voice steady despite the quaking in his chest. "I know we've been navigating a storm lately, and it's important that we address it together. I want to create a space where everyone feels safe to speak their truth no matter what that truth may be. He could see a few faces relax, but others remained tense. Marcus pressed on, sharing his vision for a diverse and inclusive workplace. He talked about fostering empathy and understanding, of needing each person's voice to build something strong together. What do you want from us? A voice called out from the back. A woman stood up, eyes blazing with passion. How can we trust that things are going to change? Marcus felt a rush of adrenaline. By holding each other accountable, he said firmly. This isn't just my fight, it's ours. I want to know what you're experiencing, and together, we can create a solution that speaks to our shared values. The invitations led to more questions, some layered with anger and frustration. The walls of self-protection began to crumble, voices melding into a chorus of grievances. Minutes turned into an hour, and soon, the town hall transformed into something he had not anticipated. It felt like a therapy session. As the discussions heated up, Jonathan's voice pierced through the air. This is ridiculous. You think airing grievances will solve anything? You are just stirring the pot. The crowd shifted. Some openly agreed with Marcus, others moved closer to Jonathan, creating a divide. The tension was palpable, crackling in the air like electricity. Enough! Marcus shouted, his voice breaking through the chaos. This isn't about blaming each other. This is about healing. We need to listen, and we all need to feel heard. He locked eyes with Tara, her unwavering support giving him strength. In that moment, something shifted. People began to talk not just about their struggles, but about their shared dreams. Ideas flowed. They began to connect, to find common ground amidst their differences. As the town hall came to a close, Marcus felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this was the beginning of something transformative. But one large question loomed over him: could this fragile unity withstand the storms ahead? As he stepped down, the conversation still buzzed around him, the excitement palpable but heavy with uncertainty. Would today ripple into change, or would it extinguish under the weight of that fear? With the challenge now laid bare before him, Marcus was left to wonder what the next meeting would bring and if the foundation they just started building would hold strong against those still clinging to old ways. The days following the town hall felt like a roller coaster. Every morning Marcus awoke with renewed hope, only to feel the weight of doubt by afternoon. He watched as employees drifted through the hallways, exchanging brief smiles that quickly faded into nervous expressions. He could sense they were still grappling with the tension, trying to navigate the fragile space they had begun to create. One chilly Wednesday, he found himself sitting at a round table with Tara, a half-eaten sandwich in front of him. "I'm worried," he admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. "After all that shouting, all those emotions, what if it just leads to more chaos?" Tara looked at him, her brow furrowed, a mix of concern and encouragement on her face. "It's a normal reaction, Marcus. Change is hard. But it's also necessary. Remember, you initiated a conversation no one thought was possible." He nodded, but his thoughts were racing. The clash with Jonathan had opened up wounds, but would they heal, or would they fester? Moments later, a message buzzed on his phone. It was an invitation to a follow-up meeting. "We need to keep the momentum going," it said in bold letters. Marcus shared it with Tara, feeling both excitement and dread. "What do you think?" he asked, anxiety bubbling up. "Are we ready for round 2? "If we're not, we will never be," she replied, her voice steady and certain. "You've already shown them they can talk. Now, it's time to listen, to find solutions." As the meeting approached, Marcus felt a strange pull to the conference room, filled with both eager anticipation and the gnaw of fear. The space was brighter than last time, infused with an undercurrent of hope as the employees trickled in. Pairs and small groups continued to converse, surrounding him with a tangible buzz. Yet, he could also feel the tension lingering like a bad storm cloud on the horizon. One by one, people took their seats. Jonathan arrived, his presence unnervingly potent. Marcus spotted him scowling as he settled near the back, arms crossed. Determined to create an inclusive atmosphere, Marcus took a deep breath and reminded himself of Tara's encouragement. "Thank you all for returning," he began, forcing himself to project confidence. "This meeting is for all of us to share thoughts, ideas, and concerns. But most importantly, it's a safe space." Some heads nodded, others remained skeptical, including Jonathan, whose piercing glare sent a shiver down Marcus's spine. "Let us continue the journey we started. Who wants to share?" To his surprise, it was a newcomer, a young intern named Maya, who raised her hand. Her voice trembled, but it was filled with passion. "I've watched as people have struggled in silence. We need to address not just the disagreements, but the fear that holds us back." Marcus could see eyes shifting, more people leaning in, drawn to Maya's vulnerability. It wasn't just her words, but the courage in her voice that caught everyone's attention. But just as he thought they were building momentum, Jonathan stood up. "If we're just going to keep complaining, what's the point? We need solutions, not more whining." His voice rang through the room like a clap of thunder. A wave of murmur washed over the crowd, splitting opinions again. Some nodded in agreement, while others seemed conflicted, unsure of how to react. Marcus felt the heat rise in him, scolding himself internally. He had seen this pattern before, the push and pull of conflict. "We are not complaining," he argued, meeting Jonathan's eyes with equal intensity. "We are seeking to better understand each other. This isn't just about fixing the workplace, it's about healing as a community." The tension thickened, and Marcus sensed his heartbeat quicken. He needed to find a way to bridge that divide, to transform the energy in the room into something constructive. Their journey was only starting, yet it felt like they were on the edge of something monumental. "Let us turn this around," he declared, his voice firm. "Maya has raised something that we each have the power to address. What if we created working groups to tackle specific issues? Here and now. Can we start there?" A ripple of murmurs cascaded through the crowd. Some heads nodded. Others still hesitated, weighed down by doubt. Would they embrace this change, or would they cling to their grievances? As all eyes turned toward him, each moment hung suspended. Marcus realized this was the turning point. But would they be ready? Would the willingness to change lead them into the light, or engulf them in shadows once more? Marcus held his breath, his pulse quickening in the charged atmosphere of the room. He could almost hear the thoughts swirling among the employees. This was a decisive moment. This wasn't just a meeting, it was the fragile beginning of something new. Maya glanced over at him, her eyes bright with hope and trepidation. "I think it's a good idea," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, but it carried a weight of unsaid encouragement that caused others to consider her words. More and more heads began to nod in agreement. It seemed the tides were shifting. "All right," Marcus pressed on, his voice steady, "let us break into groups. I'll jot down the issues we all feel are most pressing and assign people to tackle them. Who's with me?" With a subtle shift, the energy in the room began to change. Tara stood, offering the first issue. "We need to discuss communication. People feel unheard. Discussions shouldn't be one-sided, we all have contributions." That sparked another voice. It was David, a mid-level manager who often kept to himself. "What about respect? The tension in this place is palpable. We've got to find a way to disagree without tearing each other apart." Marcus felt the corners of his mouth lift. A surge of relief washed over him as more people joined the conversation, each trying to add their voice and share their thoughts. He facilitated the back and forth like a game of ping-pong, the once turned inward employees now casting their concerns into the center of the gathering. But just as the discussion heated up, Jonathan raised a hand again, this time quieter but no less critical. "We're just exchanging ideas, but words won't change the reality. We need to implement better policies to protect our people, especially at the executive level." An uneasy silence followed. Marcus felt a chill creep into his bones, reminder of how deeply the issues ran. Jonathan was right, but the weight of those implications threatened to collapse the fragile progress they had just begun to build. The heaviness of the unacknowledged reality seeped into the cracks, making everyone shift uncomfortably, yet, rather than anger, Marcus felt a flicker of determination. "You're right, Jonathan," he said, meeting his boss's gaze head-on. "Policies need to match our discussions. But real change starts with us. It begins with listening and acting, step by step together." Tara leaned closer to him, giving her an approving nod, and he felt emboldened. "For this to matter, we need everyone involved. Let us establish those working groups focused on the issues raised today. We can check in regularly to hold each other accountable. And let us aim for actual benchmarks." Slow murmurs turned into agreement, heads bobbing up and down around the room. It felt electric, the possibilities ahead lay wide open like the dawn of a new day. They were forging a path, one nobody had dared to chart before. For the first time, hope surged within him, not the tentative kind that popped like soap bubbles, but something solid, a willingness to challenge the darkness. As the meeting continued, a sense of community began to weave through the individuals gathered in the room. For every disagreement, there came an understanding, replacing the old fears with a coalition of voices fighting for common goals. But just as Marcus felt the wave of momentum, Jonathan's voice cut through, sharp and unexpected. "Look, this is great and all, but how do we convince the executives? They want to listen. They're comfortable in their little bubble." The tension returned, a stark reminder of the uphill battle they had just begun. A realization settled in Marcus's gut: could they really bridge that gap? With a flicker of uncertainty threading between them, he thought about how daunting the challenges ahead could be. But at least they were ready to fight together. In that moment, one thing was clear: they had the power to start changing their story, but would they have the courage to go all the way? Would the chasm between what was and what could be finally begin to close, or would it remain an untraversable divide? The murmurings around the table shifted as uncertainty hung like a dense fog. Marcus looked around at his colleagues, their faces a mix of determination and worry. Jonathan had laid bare an uncomfortable truth: the powerful weren't easily swayed. "What if we start small?" Maya suggested, her voice carrying a hopefulness that felt almost buoyant. "Instead of trying to convince the executives right away, let us show them our ideas in action. Let us create pilot programs, ways to prove that this approach can work." A collective sigh of relief passed through the group, the suggestion grounding their swirling thoughts. It was a tangible step towards something bigger, something real. Marcus could see that idea taking root, branches of possibility sprouting. "Absolutely," he encouraged. "If we can demonstrate our intentions and outcomes, we can present a case they can't ignore." There was a flicker of excitement in the atmosphere, like electricity charging the air. David chimed in again: "We could hold weekly discussions. Share what we've learned. Keep everyone in the loop. Make this a movement rather than just a meeting." As others brainstormed, Marcus felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. Here were individuals now taking ownership, ready to push against the barriers that had weighed them down for too long. They were bonding over a shared mission, forging a community that stretched far beyond the walls of this boardroom. But then, that creeping dread slipped back in. And if they shut it down? Jonathan's voice rumbled thick again, the skeptics still lingering. "What then?" "It's not that simple." "Then we fight back," Tara replied firmly, her tone an unexpected sword, cutting through the gloom. "We make noise. We involve others, employees from every department. There's strength in numbers." A unified cheer rippled through the group, fists punching the air in silent jubilation. Ideas sloshed around like a bright paint palette, filled with vibrant thoughts: mentorship programs, training sessions, community outreach. The room felt charged now, a stark contrast to the initial weight that had loomed just moments before. As Marcus took a mental step back, he allowed himself to bask in the moment: this surge of light, this newfound energy. They were warriors plotting a course against the status quo, ready to rise together. Just as the momentum reached its peak, Marcus's phone buzzed ominously on the surface of the table. Glancing at it, his heart sank. It was an email notification, one of many he'd been awaiting. The subject line read, executive review meeting confirmation. Marcus? Maya's voice broke through his thoughts, concern in her eyes. What is it? With a heavy sigh, he shared the news. Yet instead of despair, he caught fire in their expressions. This is our moment, she said, voice steady. We can showcase what we've built here. Let them see the real change we're working toward. The conversation sprang to life again, louder now, invigorated by the challenge ahead. The path had narrowed into one fierce direction. If they approached the executives as a united front, they could amplify their voices with every idea that echoed around the room, but as Marcus watched them rally, a flicker of anxiety gnawed at his gut. What if the executives resisted? What if they dismissed their hard work as just another trend? Yet, as he looked around the room filled with passionate faces, determination ignited within him once more. These were his people now. The battle lines had been drawn, and unity surged like a tidal wave. Then, another thought crept into his mind. What if their resolve was just the beginning? As Marcus allowed the room to swell with energy, he realized that theirs was a journey not just for change, but for transformation, and while he felt hope blooming, a faint whisper of fear lingered. Was the fight they were embarking on met with the same drive from the top? With that question hanging in the air, Marcus knew they had only scratched the surface. What else lay hidden beneath their corporate facade, waiting to be uncovered? The days leading up to the executive review meeting flew by like a whirlwind. Marcus and his team dove headfirst into preparations, their once nervous energy transforming into a strategic force. Each meeting crackled with excitement, every idea drawing them closer to a collective vision that felt almost tangible. They split themselves into committees, each tackling different aspects of their pilot programs. Maya and David focused on community outreach, setting the groundwork for partnerships with local organizations. Jonathan, ever the realist, outlined potential pitfalls, seeking to arm the team with answers to questions the executives might pose. Tara emerged as the group's motivational firebrand, her speeches igniting enthusiasm and momentum in ways Marcus had never anticipated, yet, beneath the surface of their hurried work, tension simmered. Marcus noticed shadows lurking in the corner of people's smiles. Some of them shared glances filled with unspoken worries. The reality of the corporate world loomed larger than their hopeful aspirations. The night before the meeting, they gathered in a conference room, a mix of energy and anxiety swirling among the group. Papers were scattered across the large table, covered in brainstorming notes and bullet points. Marcus could feel his heart racing as he stood to address them, each pair of eyes staring back, seeking reassurance. "This is it," he said, his voice steadying over the hushed murmurs. "We have worked so hard. Tomorrow, let us show them why this matters." A sparse round of applause broke out, but Marcus sensed the tinge of doubt lingering. Then, as if sensing the same pulse of uncertainty, Tara's hand shot up. "Will they really listen to us?" she asked, the weight of her sincerity pulling the air thick. The room fell silent, the question hanging like an unaddressed elephant. Marcus seized the moment. "They need to listen. We're bringing them solutions, not just problems. And if they don't recognize our worth, we'll show them how valuable we are together." A chorus of nods met his words. Tiny sparks of confidence ignited as they envisioned the larger impact they hoped to have. Sleep eluded Marcus that night. He turned over thoughts and questions until the dawn's light blurred the edges of worry. The corporate landscape was riddled with landmines, and he feared for the fragile path they were about to forge. When the day of the meeting arrived, a mixture of optimism and dread rolled through him. The boardroom felt ominous, a cavernous space that amplified every heartbeat. As executives began to trickle in, he caught their wary expressions, the vague curiosity veiling skepticism. Marcus took a deep breath as he sat at the long table with his team. Their faces radiated a tight mix of determination and anxiety. When the time finally arrived, they presented their ideas with fervor. The air was electric as the tension ignited between them and the executives, but then, as the discussions prompted more questions, the mood shifted. One executive unexpectedly dismissed a key proposal, labeling it impractical in a tone that felt more personal than professional. Marcus's heart sank. His belief started to wane as others joined in this critical overview, deflating their achievements with cold logic that felt like a slap in the face. David's hand trembled as he tried to speak, but the barrage of dismissive comments drowned him out. The unity they felt amongst each other began to fray under the weight of the executive's scrutiny. What if they truly don't see the value? Tara's whisper broke his thoughts, echoing the fear that weighed heavy on all their hearts. Suddenly, Maya stood up, her eyes fierce and bright. We cannot let them get away with this dismissal. We have to show them what we stand for. Marcus felt fire ignite within him again. Was this the moment they needed to seize, to turn hesitation into action? As he glanced at his team, galvanized by Maya's outburst, he realized they were on the brink of transformation, not just for themselves, but for every employee counting on them. Just as the executives exchanged skeptical glances, Marcus spoke up, his voice firm. If it's a movement you want, that's what we'll give you. We won't shy away from the truth. And with that determination, the atmosphere shifted again. This was no longer just a presentation, it had evolved into a demand for recognition, a call for respect. What would their challenge ignite in the hearts and minds of those powerful enough to change everything? As the executives leaned back, expressions unreadable, Marcus knew they crossed an invisible line, but what awaited them on the other side? The room felt charged, as if the collective heartbeat of Marcus's team thudded against the polished glass of the boardroom table. He could see the shift in the executives, the hesitation that had brewed, now bubbling up into a moment of palpable tension. Had they ever truly listened to the voices of those below them, of the workers who kept the company alive? Maya's fire stirred something deep within him. Maybe this wasn't just about their proposals or next quarter's profits. Maybe it was about showing them the weight of their words, the impact of their decisions. A murmur rolled through the executives as they huddled together, stealing quick glances at one another. The tone had changed, uncertainty danced in the air. He could sense the weight of every second ticking by. Why not just show them what we stand for? Jonathan's voice was shaky, but it held a glimmer of courage. Let us not just sell our ideas. Let us make them see who we are. Yes. Tara stood up, her spirit infectious. Let us tell them our stories. The real reasons we're fighting for these changes. Lifting his chin, Marcus could feel a wave of adrenaline crashing through him. They had prepared for this moment, every meeting, every late night spent in the office, but they had put the wrong foot forward. It wasn't just about flooding the boardroom with data, it was about connection. Right, he affirmed, let us show them why we care. With newfound purpose, they began to weave their narratives into the heart of the presentation. David shared the story of a local family struggling to get services they fought hard for, while Maya recounted a time when they had empowered an entire community through their outreach efforts. Each story stole breaths, evoking tears among some of the executives. Marcus's pulse quickened as he watched the rigid postures slowly relax, expressions shifting from unwelcome skepticism to reluctant intrigue. For the first time, he felt the gap between the board and his team start to close. But just as their stories began to resonate, the head of the committee leaned forward, a sharpness lingering in his eyes. But what you are suggesting, these transformations, how do you expect them to succeed in the real world? People want results, not stories. A swift wave of frustration coursed through Marcus. This was the moment. They either retreated back to their shells or stood firm. These are not just stories, Marcus asserted, passion rising in his voice. These are the faces of real people, and when you dismiss them, you're dismissing change. Every number you savor has a soul behind it. He scanned the room for support. His team was behind him, their expressions fierce and determined. It felt like the pulse of the room had shifted again, this time in their favor. Let us show them the cost, Maya said, glancing at him. Not just in dollars, but in human terms. Our community, their community. We're all one world. The executives exchanged glances, whispers filled with doubt swirling in the air. But with each story shared, with every painful truth they unveiled, growing determination united them. The atmosphere ignited into something that felt sharp and alive, almost electric, and then, without warning, one executive slammed his hand on the table. "You have to understand, this is a business. What you're asking is risky." Marcus's stomach dropped into a pit of fear. Were they really about to be shut down again? A silence swept across the room, thick and heavy. But from somewhere deep within, he found his voice again, stronger this time. "Yes, it is a business," he countered, steadying himself against the weight of uncertainty. "But it's also a lifeline. If you want a company that thrives, that grows, that connects with the community, it starts with listening to voices like ours." The head of the committee looked taken aback, and Marcus could feel the air thickening with expectation. Had they made a breakthrough, or had they crossed a line too thin to stand on? As the room buzzed with uncertainty, a question burned in his heart: would they leave behind their fear of change, or would they revert to the familiar, stifling silence, and leave it all unchallenged? Marcus's mind raced. What would the fallout from this moment be? What awaited them if they dared to dream bigger than before? And most importantly, how could they ensure it would matter? The silence hung like a heavy curtain, but it was punctuated by a swirling blend of whispers, half-formed questions, and the low hum of discontent. Marcus held his breath, praying for clarity to cut through the noise. He felt Maya's hand briefly squeeze his shoulder, a lifeline amidst the tense uncertainty. "Business is more than profits," Jonathan broke the silence. His voice was steadier now, infused with a sense of courage he hadn't shown before. "It's about impact. We're not just numbers on a balance sheet, we're real people working for a better future." A few executives nodded reluctantly, some visibly wrestling with the concept. The head of the committee leaned back slightly, his expression unreadable. "You speak of impact, but what does that really mean?" he asked, a tinge of skepticism lacing his tone. "Show me how your stories translate into real outcomes." In every story there's a call to action, Tara chimed in, evident passion in her voice. The mother who struggles to find affordable healthcare can't be just a statistic. She represents thousands of families. Companies that thrive do so by understanding what matters, by listening to those who are affected. Each word they shared became a building block, slowly, tentatively constructing a bridge. The executives were shifting, some even leaning forward, peering over the edges of their polished defenses. They could feel what Marcus felt, a stirring call to empathy they hadn't anticipated. Marcus decided it was time to press forward, to dig deeper. "Imagine," he said, his heart racing with conviction, "if we take a risk together. What if we dedicated resources to empower that mother, to honor her struggle? What if our business model shifted to not only analyze data but to engage people?" He could see the gears turning in the eyes across the table. Slowly, the atmosphere began to crack, splintering the tension that had existed before. "But change comes with challenges," the head of the committee warned. "It also invites opposition. Are you prepared for that? Are you ready to battle against a powerful resistance?" "We're willing to battle for what's right," David spoke up, each word laced with conviction. "People talk about champions. We're ready to be the champions for our community, showing that we're more than just a corporation. We are leaders in change, even if it's hard." "What it boils down to is trust," Maya added, an earnestness shining through. "Trust ourselves and trust each other. If we can't take this step together, then we're bound to repeat the mistakes of the past. It's our opportunity to set a precedent." As the words hung in the air, the energy in the room shifted dramatically. The executives exchanged forward glances, leaning in closer, murmurs of intrigue now replacing the earlier skepticism. But just as hope began to swell in Marcus's chest, the head of the committee held his hand up, silencing the room again. "So you want to pivot our entire strategy based on this sense of community? I need a plan, something concrete. If we take this risk, I need to know how we're ensuring accountability." Marcus felt a weight stifling his breath. This was the moment they either soared or faltered. "We need to decide right here, right now, what we want to stand for," he replied, voice steady despite the storm within. "And if we struggle together. That's how we build accountability. A moment of intense silence filled the room, punctuated only by the distant sound of the city bustling outside. Each member of the team seemed caught in an introspection of their own, weighing their dreams against the very real fears of the unknown. Just then, a familiar face peered through the conference room glass, a colleague whose eyes reflected the same shared hope and fear. As they locked gazes, Marcus felt a swell of determination ignite within him. Could they risk everything for a chance at genuine transformation? And what would it mean if they found the courage to lead, rather than follow? Before he could process the implications fully, one of the younger executives broke in. What if we began with a pilot program? Something manageable to test the waters. The suggestion hung in the air with tantalizing possibilities, but was it enough? Would it be a step forward or just a delay of the inevitable? As murmurs of agreement started to cascade around the table, Marcus's heart pounded wildly. He needed to muster every ounce of belief not just in their mission, but in the power of their voices to forge a new path. What awaited them down that path? The answer lingered just beyond reach, waiting to be uncovered with each converging story, each bold step into the unknown. Sitting in the dim light of the conference room table, Marcus felt a fierce determination wash over him. This moment teetered on the edge of transformation. They had fought hard, shared their pain, and opened their vulnerabilities. The executives around the table had started to see them not just as cogs in a corporate machine, but as passionate individuals embodying a journey. The room remained charged with energy, a palpable mixture of hope and fear threading through the air. They were on the cusp of a profound change, but could they truly leap into uncharted territory? Maya leaned in, her voice steady and clear. Let us ensure our next steps are firm. A pilot program would show that we're serious. It's not just about making noise, it's about action, real impact. Heads nodded, eyes brightening with possibility. This was the spark they needed, a fire igniting the notion that they could indeed change their corporate landscape. Let us propose a community-driven initiative, Marcus suggested, spurred on by the energy around him. One that directly addresses the needs of our underserved neighborhoods. And we'll measure its success by how it uplifts real people. As the team contributed ideas, the atmosphere shifted again. They were no longer just presenting, they were planning and strategizing together, converting anxiety into a shared vision for change. As fingers danced over notebooks and laptops, Marcus could feel the rhythm of hope pulsing through the room. We could create a mentoring program for young adults, helping them develop skills to enter the tech industry, Chloe, another teammate, added. If they see this company investing in them, it builds trust. Exactly, Tara chimed in. People want to know we care. If we can align our profit with outreach, everyone wins. With each idea shared, they wove together a tapestry that illustrated both responsibility and opportunity. Marcus believed deeply that this was not just a moment, it was a movement, a chance to forge a new identity for the company and its people. Just as the discussion felt ready to wrap up, the head of the committee raised an eyebrow. What kind of actual commitment are you prepared to guarantee? Trust is built on accountability, but it's also about results. How do you plan to see this through? Silence hung in the air for a beat too long. But Marcus, sensing the moment, took a deep breath. We'll establish a steering committee made up of employees from all levels. By including voices from different departments, we guarantee checks and balances. If it falters, we'll address it together, no one falling behind. There was a pause, a probing moment where the weight of certainty and vulnerability floated above them like a heavy cloud. But a wave of agreement started rippling through the room, flooding them with energy. The executives could see not just hope, but commitment. One of the executives who had been skeptical earlier spoke up, this time with more openness. Creating a framework for accountability could benefit us all. It shows we're willing to adapt. The tide was turning. Old doubts began cracking, making way for fertile ground. Marcus felt unshakable support from his team, the kind that emboldened his belief. If we want to bring change, we must do it together. Our commitment won't be just to ourselves but to our community, and by investing in them, we invest in our success. He watched as eyes began brightening, newfound admiration sparkling amongst the executives. They could see it unfolding before them, the potential to bridge the corporate world with real, impactful change. With a confident voice, Marcus concluded, "Let us embolden our mission to be a force for good. It starts within our walls, and it radiates out like ripples on water. Are we ready to act?" Slow nods answered him. A stirring of courage quietly permeated the room, and it was clear that this was just the beginning. As they rose from the boardroom table, Marcus was enveloped in a wave of warmth, the community he longed for finally at his fingertips. The stories shared had taken root, their resolve began to flourish into something greater than everyone could have imagined. When they exited, the atmosphere felt alive, electric, ready. Marcus could almost hear the faint echoes of victory calling out to him, a reminder of the battles won and those yet to come. They had transformed criticism into collaboration, fear into united purpose. As they stepped into the shimmering sunlight, Marcus turned to Tara. "No matter what happens next, we're on this journey together. With every fiber of my being, I believe we can make a difference." Tears sparkled in her eyes. "You're right, Marcus. The fight is just beginning, but now it feels like we're finally on the right path." With the rich colors of a hopeful future unfurling before them like the dawn, they clasped hands, ready for the next phase of this journey, a journey of transformation, resilience, and unwavering hope. And so, they walked forward, embracing the challenge. As they stepped into a new reality, their collective heartbeat echoed with promise. Now it was time to spread that promise beyond their walls to the corners of their community, to every voice yearning to be heard. The journey had just begun, and each step would be taken side by side, but what was even more important was that you take this moment to step forward too. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that unravel the power of change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm because your support is essential. Comment with your reactions and feelings about this ending, share your thoughts, and for those who need to witness transformation, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this story. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of uplifting the community.